Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So it is now July, and that means that we have bypassed the first 6 months of the year, and I thought it was time to do like a mid-year wrap up. I know a lot of people have been doing the mid-year freakout tag, and I know people have been doing like quarterly wrap-ups where they go over some statistics and things for their first of the year. So I figured I would do mine for the first half of the year to kind of give you an idea of what I have been reading, what was my favorite, what was my least favorite, that kind of stuff. So I have a little bit of notes. I have read 70 books in the first 6 months of the year. So as of right now, I had my Goodreads set at 80, but I'm almost there. But I really wanted to read 125 for the full year. And if I stay on track, I'll read 140. So I think the 125 is very, very doable. I don't know if 140 is, but I guess we'll have to wait and see how the year progresses. I read 27,267 pages. Out of those, my math's a little off. I feel like I'm missing something in here and I can't figure out what it is. I read 28 adult books, 7 middle grade, 30 YA, and 4 graphic novels. And then I figured I would go through and just do a quick best and worst. My lighting just is changing because the sun keeps flaring behind the clouds and coming in and out. So if I change lighting too much, I'll apologize. All right, so I figured we'll do the worst first and then the best. I do have 6 here, but I think I'll just do the 5 because there's, I don't know. I have a couple where I'm not positive where to place them. I know that what my worst book is. All right, so I guess I'll kind of do these in reverse. The honorable mention, I guess I would say, is Rosie's Traveling Tea Shop. It is a book that I got an ARC of earlier this year, and it was okay. But when I was looking through my worst books, it definitely popped out as one that was a bummer for me because it was just too slow burn. Like, you have this couple who's really into each other, but she's constantly looking for the bigger and better type of stuff. The book is basically about this girl who is a sous chef in a very high prestigious restaurant, and she comes home late one night on her birthday and her husband dumps her because she says that she's never there. And in a drunken fit, she buys a little traveling a little van, that you have a food van that you can live in, and she decides to leave the restaurant industry because her husband also works at a different restaurant in the same position that she does, but it's not as prestigious as the one that she has, and has been talking crap about her through the whole system. Everyone's looking at her with pity, and she just doesn't want to deal with it. So she gets into her little van and she drives off and starts having this like little traveling tea shop. But she's really interested in 2 different guys, and it's just, one of them she never met in person, she's only talked to him online, and the other one she's met in person, but she refuses to believe that he's a decent guy. And the whole premise was really cute, and I liked where it was going for most of it, and it was a massive letdown at the end. So it's gonna get an honorable mention. It's not in my worst, it's just honorably mentioned because I was so let down by something that could have been so good. All right, then for the worst books I read. All right, so the worst book one of the worst books that I read. All right, I'm not sure which order to put these 2 in as far as worst, not so bad to worst. So as of my not so bad, I'm gonna do The Wicked King. I just don't care for these books. I like Holly Black. I've liked everything that she's written in the past. It's very difficult for me to like a book when I dislike all the characters. The only character I like in this book is a little boy who's like 7. Because of the fact that I dislike so many of the characters in these books, it ends up being one of my worst. But it's not so bad that I won't continue to read them. I'm interested enough to continue to read, but I'm glad it's only 3 books because I've already read 2 of them, so I might as well just knuckle under and read the last one and hope that there is some redeeming qualities to some of the characters in this book. If you don't know, these books are about Faye. They're about this girl named Jude, and her twin sister and her older sister. Her older sister is half fae, she's half a goblin or something, but she's belongs in the fae world. And her mom took off when she was pregnant and stole the baby away from its father. And its father tracked them down, kills the mother and the twins' father, and steals his daughter plus the other two. And then they start going to school and they meet the other fae kids, and the other fae kids absolutely despise them because they're human. But there's this sick little romance between Jude and Cardin, Cardin being one of the high fae. And it's just, yeah, they are all terrible people, and I hate them all. It makes me dislike a book when I literally hate all the characters in it. The next book that ranks in my worst books of the year is The Cruel Crown. This is the novella set for the Red Queen series. Red Queen is about this girl who is red-blooded, but she lives in a world where red blood means no power and silver blood means power. But she's a red blood with power, and so she's an anomaly. And these are two prequels for that series. One of them follows the so one of the main characters in the book are a set of princes who are brothers. One of them is, by a couple of accidents, twists of fates, is engaged to Mare, our female lead. And these two brothers, they share a father, but they don't share a mother. And the older brother, Cal, who is not the one that's being betrothed to Mare, but he's the older brother of that one. Oh, yes. His mom died when he was just a baby, and one of the short stories in here is about her. And then the other one is about one of the revolutionary red bloods that is trying to collapse the silver blood system. And there's a book in here about her. I liked the one about Cal's mom, but I really disliked the one about the revolutionary, because to me it was way too long for the amount of information. So this book is not very long, it's like 200 pages. And most of it is about the revolutionary chick. And I just didn't like it. I thought the information was good to know, but it was too much information for what was in it, if that makes sense. It was too drawn out. It was just, there had to be a more succinct way to get us the information. Like maybe even just write it into the books. But I didn't like it. And then for my top spots, one of them is Too Hard, which I just talked about in my monthly wrap up. So you'll get this one and that one in the same week. And that one is about this girl who is getting her apartment renovated, and she's got a drippy sink. So she goes in and tries to fix the drippy sink and ends up breaking it. So she calls the emergency line, and this man shows up to help fix the sink. He's like 20 plus years older than her, and they have this little romance. Overall, the book was fine. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't the worst book I've ever read, but it did annoy the crap out of me because she kept pulling the daddy thing. And she was like, oh, daddy, make me do this. And he's like, well, if you're a good little girl, you'll do this. And I'm just like, I get it, that's someone's kink out there. It is not mine. And I have no hate on people who get off on this stuff. As long as you're legal, I do not care. But I don't want to read about it. And that's what this book was about. Other than the daddy stuff, it's okay. But the daddy stuff is just, no, yeah. All right, my second to worst book was Witches of East End. This was a reread for me, and I remember liking it. But now over this last 2 years or so, have realized that I cannot deal with Melissa Dela Cruz because her books just annoy the snot out of me. I don't know if it's the writing style or if it's the way they're written, the writing style or the content or what it is, but I remember loving this book and I despised it the second time through. I barely finished it, and I had the whole trilogy out from the library and I was so excited to read them all. I took them all back because it was just one of those things where you're reading along, you're like, oh, this is pretty good. Oh, I kind of like this. Oh, what the heck just happened? And why are you writing like this? Does the sentence need to be any longer? It was a combination of lots of things. It was a combination of how she wrote it and what she wrote. She was trying to mix too many mythologies together. So you have God and Norse mythology, you have witch mythology, you have vampire mythology. You've got so much stuff wrapped into one book, and it was not done well. Whereas I've been reading the Suki books over again. They're rereads for me also. I love them to death. They also have a bunch of stuff in one world, but it's done right. It's done in a way that makes it kind of go, oh, I can almost understand a world like this. But anyways, I have written off Melissa Dela Cruz, and I will not read anything else that she writes, because I am just, after this year, I'm done. And then the last book on my worst books of the year is called Gas or Ass, which I also read in June, so it's also in my June wrap up. And it is about this girl who, her mom marries this guy out of the blue, and she has to move in with him and his 2 twin sons. Not twin sons, that's not right. She has to move in with his 2 sons. They're like 6 months apart in age, different women, and they all live together, and there's like a romance between, erotic between the 2. I read it for Smotathon. I also read it because one of my online book groups was reading it, so I thought it'd be kind of fun. It was like 99 cents, so I read the book, and I hated it. The rest of the series was really good. The first one was terrible. It was just, yeah, it was a lot of, my problem wasn't the fact that she was dating her stepbrothers. And I do mean both of her stepbrothers. She was having sex with both of her stepbrothers. That part didn't bother me because they'd known each other for 5 minutes. But I did have a problem with how they treated her. They treated her like straight out garbage. Plus, there was a lot of racing in this book, which made me miss driving fast because I live on an island where the speed limit's 35. So I miss driving fast with my loud music, and I'm missing my car right now that we had to get rid of because it was one of the Volkswagens that got, but they did the big buyback program because Volkswagen lied and they weren't going to be legal anymore, so we just sold my car back to them because of it. But I miss driving my little Jetta, and I miss loud music and fast roads, and so there was parts of this series that I liked a lot, but there's other parts that were just dumb. I mean, she's learning how to drive a stick shift on a Hellcat and is drag racing, and for the very first time in her entire life, same day she learns how to drive a stick shift in a 69 Shelby. And I'm just like, these are beautiful cars. There's no way. There's no way. Not happening. So it was just, the domineering part was the worst part. The rest of it I can overlook as just being stupid. But the domineering part was just, it pissed me off so bad. And the only reason I even moved on to the next books in the series was because of the way it ended. But that was definitely the worst book that I read so far this year. And then as far as the best books that I read so far this year, I just pulled Crazy Rich Asians. Technically I read it last year. I finished the series this year, but I just wanted to like do I read Rich People Problems, and so technically I should be holding up Rich People Problems as one of the best, but it wasn't that one book that I liked a lot, it was the entire series that I liked a lot. This whole series was just wonderful. It's about these Singaporeans who are literally crazy rich, and it was funny, and it was satirical, and it was kind of difficult to read at times. But I really like the series overall, so I'm definitely going to say that even though I only read one of the books this year, I'm just taking the whole series as one, because I don't think it was just any one book that was so good. I think it was the entire series as a whole. The next book that I read that I really liked was Battle Royale. This one has its own subgenre at this point in time. So Fortnite and a bunch of other games and movies like Hunger Games are all Battle Royale type based, where all must die so one can survive. And it's me and Caleb were constantly arguing about, is it one can live or one can survive? And I say it's survive, he says live, but to me there's a difference between living and surviving. I did an audiobook of this. because I just got this in the mail. It took me ages to find one. I'm so glad that I found one that is nice and is good quality and it looks nice. It made me so happy. So basically what happens in this world is that in Asia, they have their way of controlling the population is by doing this draw for schools. So there's 50 schools that get picked every year, and this follows one of the schools that got picked. And in each class, there is like 4 classes. And this one was, let me look it up because I can't remember what class they used. There's a lot of background information in here. Okay, this was the 3rd year class B at this junior high school. All of them are the same grade level. So every school that gets picked is the same grade level. It's about 2,000 kids that go through this every year. Each class is about 40 kids, and each class has one person that survives. That one person gets like a stipend of money to live off of for the rest of their lives for being able to pass this thing. And the object is kill or be killed. It's very similar to Hunger Games, and people have been debating whether or not Hunger Games was written because of this or not, but it's also got Lord of the Flies inspiration in it, and Lord of the Flies is much older than this is, so it goes back and forth about where the inspiration for this comes from. But overall, I think it is an extremely good book. I thought it was really interesting. I would have liked to have the book while I was listening to it to help keep track of all the names of all the characters. But now that I have it, when I do decide to do a reread, I will read it and listen to it at the same time because it was very, very good. I liked it a lot. All right, the next book that I adored was What to Say Next. This is about a girl who has recently lost her father and an autistic boy. And it's about how his brutal honesty was able to help bring her out of a serious funk and bring her back to the land of the living, I guess. And it's this sweet little romance between these two characters and how they, you know, complement each other. We have one boy who has a really hard time showing his emotions. He is autistic, so he does not, he doesn't know how to talk to people very well. He doesn't know how to have those interactions. And he falls in love with this girl who's the exact opposite. And so his brutal honesty is really good for her. And they're actually able to really help and heal each other. And I think this one was super, super sweet, and I really loved it. Now down to the 2 hardest books that I'm not necessarily sure which one I would consider my favorite of the year. So I'm just gonna do them both. So we have Sea Prayer, which is, I can't even come close to pronouncing his name, but it's just this little tiny picture book. It's all written in watercolor, and it's about refugees who are trying to sail to safety. And the book is based around these children who die at sea, and this prayer that is told for them because of their loss. It definitely has some real... Sea Prayer was inspired by the story of Alan Kurdi, the 3-year-old Syrian refugee who drowned in the Mediterranean Sea during trying to reach safety in Europe in 2015. In the year after Alan's death, 4,176 others died and went missing in the same journey. And as sad as that is, I think this is an absolutely beautiful book. It really talks about what refugees go through to try to get to safety, and it's just, I don't know, it was beautiful, and it was short, and I did a read-along thing online with it, so I actually looked at the pictures while it was being read to me, and I thought it was beautiful. So yes, read this please. It's tiny, it's short, it's expensive as can get out, but I don't care, I bought it anyways. And the last one I have is Outlander, because I loved Outlander. Outlander, if you don't know, is about this woman Claire who, right after the finish of World War II, she goes to Scotland to try to reconnect with her husband, who she hasn't seen in 8 years because they were both in different areas during the war. She was a nurse and he was an officer. and they are trying to reconnect their marriage since they haven't been together for so long, that they go to Scotland, which is where they got married, to try and recapture this relationship that they had. They go to some stones that are like the Stonehenge but smaller, which I guess are all over Europe. And one of the stones buzzes at her and she touches it and it takes her back in time. It takes her to 1743, which is right before the Jacobite Revolution in Scotland. And it's all about her trying to get home. And she falls in love with somebody else while she's there. And it's just this beautiful book. And I really enjoyed it. And I'm on book 3 right now. So yeah, that's it. Those are my best and worst and statistics for the first half of this year. I hope you enjoy this, and I will definitely do another one at the end of the year. If you guys want me to just do a second half versus a full year, let me know. If you want both, I can do that too. So yeah, I will talk to you guys again soon. Bye.